Hello, hello, rock stars, and welcome to Garment Sewing Bandcamp. My name is Holly, a Knight of String and Story, and it is my job to guide you to sew and quilt with confidence. Y'all, I am so excited to be here tonight. If you are already here with me live, do say hi in the chat. Let me know where you are tuning in from. This is really exciting. This is the second time I have ever taught this band camp, the last one being last week. And if we have any repeat viewers, then y'all already know that part of the reason I'm so excited about teaching this evening is because I'm actually relatively new to garment sewing. So at the end of our time together, I'm going to share with y'all about Garment Sewing Academy that Hillary teaches for String and Story. And I'm actually a student of Hillary's. And I have just come to the strong conclusion that if Hillary can teach me, she can truly teach anyone because I was so scared. And I'm going to share with y'all tonight three of the skills that helped me kind of get over that mountain from fearful to confident to help me feel like a garment sewing rock star. And I'm hoping that they're going to be helpful for y'all as well, and give y'all a little sneak peek of what is possible when Hillary teaches you how to sew clothes. All right. It's going to be really, really fun. All right. Let me see who is here. Sue is here. Hello, Sue. I am also ready to rock and roll. Your poor PJ pants. Yeah, we will be talking a little bit about fitting and sizing and the back of the pattern envelope and all of that stuff at the end of our time together. And hopefully there's something in there that's helpful for the giant PJ pant conundrum. For what it's worth, I love my pajamas big. So, maybe just embrace it and be like, you know what, they're jammies. Means the pockets are extra big for snacks, Karen Woolery says, looking forward to sewing clothes again after 40 years. Love that. Jackie says, sewing since grade school and clothes since seventh grade. They just never seem to fit quite right. Hillary's a master of fit, and I'm going to share a few tips with y'all this evening, but that is something that I really love inside GSA, is the way that she works with y'all to make sure that things get fit just to you. And when needed, she talks about things like grading. It's really, really helpful. Let's see. Kirsten says, hello from Chapel Hill. Hello, hello. Christy from an unseasonably warm Ontario. Joy in Orlando. Penny in Illinois. My mommy G. Hello, hello. Renee right here in Atlanta. Hello, neighbor. Jerry in Washington. Christy says, looking to be inspired to get back to garment sewing after several decades of wearing scrubs. Yes, yes, yes. Melanie's in Cincinnati, and Lucy says hi from Shelburne, Vermont, working my way back into garment sewing. But fitting has changed, and so has the fabric available. Yes. All right. Shall we jump in? All right, let's do it. So as I mentioned, welcome to Garment Sewing Bandcamp. Words would be helpful. 3 key skills to sew your first garment with me, Holly Knight of String and Story. Now, I am going to put one big asterisk here. If you've been following along on social media, you know we had the Duluth Fall Festival this weekend. It was the 40th annual Duluth Fall Festival. I have not heard numbers from this year, but on a good year with good weather like we had this year, it is not uncommon for about 100,000 people to pass through downtown Duluth. So I have done a lot of talking over the last few days, and I have noticed today that my throat's a little sore and I'm tripping over my words. So please just bear with me. My brain is still like, woo, what was that? All right. Hello, Mary. Hello, Jeannie. I love seeing so many familiar faces and names here. Now, here's kind of some of the inspiration behind this evening. All right. I was recently listening to a podcast, and the guest, Casey Davis, said, your body is not made to fit clothes. Clothes are made to fit your body. And as we've already started talking about this evening, I think that pretty succinctly sums up why most of us are here, right? Whether we have a very special garment that we want to make, or we want to edit something that came off the rack, or we're just frustrated with off the rack fits, and we want to start from the fabric off the bolt and make a garment that's just for us. But you may be hitting some uncertainty, right? Maybe it's been a long time. Maybe you've never done this before. Maybe you haven't been super successful in the past and you're looking for some tips to level up your game. You, my dear rock star, are in the right place. So for those of you who are brand new around here, let me introduce myself a little more properly. I am Holly Knight. I've been teaching free motion quilting since 2017, and I have watched thousands of quilters grow in their confidence through my blog, workshops, and digital courses. More recently, I also began learning how to sew clothes. Here in this photo on the right, you can see our lovely shop, String and Story on Main. What's really kind of amazing, especially for those of you who maybe haven't seen it in a couple of months, all of the shelves are now full. And it's just incredible how the shop has continued to grow and develop over the last few months. I remember taking this picture and being like, look how full it looks in here. And now we have even more fabric, which is really exciting. And I also want to introduce Hillary Henderson. So Hillary Henderson is the garment sewing expert at String and Story. I am assisting with some of the garment sewing instruction now as my skill set is starting to grow. But Hillary has been sewing garments her whole life, and she is absolutely masterful in how she creates clothes to custom fit her body and how she helps others do the same. She actually made both of the outfits that we're wearing in this picture. And one of my favorite things about this picture is that we are wearing the same shirt and the same shorts, but they both are made and cut and fit to flatter each of us, even though Hillary and I have different bodies and we like our clothes to fit a little bit more differently. I prefer a more tailored look. She likes her clothes a little bit looser, and she did a great job of accommodating two patterns, the top and the shorts, for two different people, which I just think is really, really awesome. Today, I'm going to teach from my experience with sewing my first few garments, some of the lessons that I've learned along the way, things that Hillary's been telling me, and Darcy before her has been telling me for a while, that it wasn't until I finally got into practice that I was like, oh, this was so much less overwhelming than I thought it was going to be. So I'm hoping that I can help y'all skip some of that overwhelm as well, pass along some of the wisdom that I've been handed, and encourage y'all to take the next steps on your garment sewing journey. All right. So, offline, by the way, I am married to the hubster. His actual name is John, along with what feels like the entire male population of the world, hence calling him hubster. We have two not so little boys named Jim and Ian, and we live in Duluth, Georgia, with our dog Havana, who was behind me, but she seems to have moved along, our two cats, and our giant fish tank. I'm frequently found out on the town green sipping a bitter or eating some food or getting back from a big old jog because I love to run in my spare time. Jeannie, by the way, since you're here, my next half marathon is in a week and a half. Just saying. We can freak out about that later. All right. A little bit of housekeeping. Please get comfortable. It is a lovely evening. Grab yourself a bevy, be that a glass of wine, a cup of tea, a glass of water, whatever floats your boat. Settle in. If you've got some handwork, feel free to grab it as we're going along. And please ask all the questions. I will do my very best to answer them. If we venture beyond my knowledge of garment sewing, I bet Hillary will have an answer for you. So we can figure that out when we get there, okay? But the most important thing about that is I want you to ask them all, right? I so often preach in Free Motion Quilting Academy and in our Free Motion Quilting band camps that there are no dumb beginner questions. And yet I have found as I am a beginner again, learning how to sew clothes, I'm reminded how hard it can be to ask novice questions. You are not dumb. You are not behind. You are just a beginner. Okay. And I want you to all have that permission slip. Even if you have sewn garments before and you're coming back to it, you're a beginner in your current body, in your current season and stage of life. All right. So ask all those questions. Know that this is a safe place. All right. So, you, my dears, are in the right place. If you are frustrated with the fit of off the rack clothes and you want to create practical garments that fit well and feel fabulous, all right? You saw that outfit Hillary and I were wearing. That's two of the three garments in Garment Sewing Academy. They're very practical, they're perfect for giving place to start. You are also in the right place if you dream of complicated cosplay or complicated fashion, elevated fashion, and want to learn important garment sewing foundations, right? I've begun learning about the amazing world of cosplay through a couple of new friends that we've been working with through the world of Burnett. And let me tell you, the skills that go into this, right? And if you aspire to be an up-leveled cosplayer, or if you want to make a wedding dress or a prom dress or a special occasion outfit, right? We start with the basics. You're in the right place to be here. You are also in the right place if you want to learn how to sew. And you think that learning how to sew clothes would be a pretty darn good place to start. Yes. Yes, it is. And I think that is absolutely fabulous. And you are also in the right place. So drop in the chat. Some of y'all are already doing that. What brings you here this evening? What are your goals beyond this? I'm going to ask a little more specifically in a second, but which of these buckets do you kind of find yourself falling in? Mary says, yes, sewing patterns and fabrics are a lot different than when I used to sew my own garment. That's amazing, Mary. What are some of the differences that you notice that you're excited about, and what are some of the differences that you're frustrated by? Kirsten says, I'm tired of trying to find dresses that fit with pockets, essential for showing a dog. Obviously, the treats and the clicker and all the other things have to go somewhere, right? I don't actually know if you use a clicker. I'm just trying to imagine things that might be in your pocket. Treats for sure. Definitely treats. Mary says, my body is a lot different. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I love that. All right, y'all keep those coming. I want to know which buckets we're in. I also want to know what is a more specific dream that you have. Like Kristen already said, I want to find I want dresses that have pockets, right? The CeeLo dress, I think you might really like, Kristen. It's a fabulous one. Treats in the rain clicker when training. Yes, I guessed correctly. I love it when an educated guess turns out all right. That was really good. So I want to know what is kind of the specific thing that you're aiming for as well. One of my favorite things about this photo is we're all wearing me maids. So this was at Jesse's birthday party. This is the gingham shirt that I made in 90 minutes because I was feeling reckless, and that felt like a pretty healthy reckless to pursue, right? So let me know, what are the dreams? Sue says, I don't know how it happened, but I swear this is not my body. If you ever want a really interesting song, sidebar, about just like the age old, like womanly wrestling with how our bodies change over time, Imogene Heap's Bad Body Double, I love it. It's just a great, interesting song, just of that feeling that we all wrestle with, right? Pants McClee says, I can't find the garments I love. Natural fibers, minimalist design with pockets. Oh, you are in the right place, my dear. You are in the right place. Mary says, I want my clothes to flatter me. I love that. And colors and fabrics that I like, not the current trend the store decided on. Love that too. Denise Ingham said, I made all my own clothes in high school. I'm sure that they didn't fit great, but now 40 years later, I'd like to make myself something again. Yes, 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 yes. I love it. Fantastic. All right. So let's get going, because you can and will be a garment sewing rock star. And listen, this is not just me speaking from belief in you, though I absolutely believe in you. This is also speaking from the sense of, if I can feel like a garment sewing rock star, truly anyone can, because I did not think that this was possible for me. Before learning how to quilt, I had a number of creative pursuits that consumed my time. One of them was painting, oil painting and watercolors. And I had a friend who also oil painted. She was my best friend in middle school. And we had the opportunity in art like towards the end of 8th grade, to try clay and like hand building with clay. And I was really bad at it. Like really, really, really bad at it. She was really good at it. Of course, the comparison game immediately kicks in. And from that point forward, the story that I told myself was that 3D was not for me. And I carried that into sewing. Never mind the fact that I've made bags. Never mind the fact that like quilts are dimensional, right? If this is possible for me, it is absolutely possible for all of y'all. All right. And I want you to borrow that courage and borrow that belief if you don't feel it for yourself yet. All right. Let's see. Christy says, I want to try Me Made. I hope to have quality better than rack clothes. I love that. Pauline says, I'd like to make my clothes that fit my lifestyle and modesty meter. Fabulous. Diane says, I love the dresses, vests, coats, and sweatshirts that people make with quilt tops or complete quilts. They often say they don't use a pattern, just copy a garment. How do they do that? That's a great question, Diane. And I would say that that is something that Hillary probably has the skills to do. I do not currently have the skills to do that. That being said, I have some great recommendations for patterns if you want to make a quilt coat, because there are also people who use patterns. Mary says, I've been wanting to sew garments again, and I've been collecting patterns for over a year. I actually have all 3 of the patterns in this course. I'm just not sure how to start. Mary, you stick with me to the end. All right. Oh, I'm so excited for you. So today we are going to tackle 3 big buckets that are important for getting you started. The first is the supplies you need to get started. For those of you that have been sewing for a while or have sewn garments in the past, none of this is going to particularly surprise you. I also know that there may be some of you who are here, maybe some of my quieter in the chat folks, that you may be sewing for the very first time. And I want to make sure that you know it's okay to ask things like, what do I need other than a sewing machine, right? So we're going to go over some of those things together. We're also going to talk about why we recommend starting with wovens and woven garments versus, say, like knits or other types of fibers. Okay. Then we're going to talk about the big lie. Isn't that nice and intriguing? I like it very much. Finally, I'm going to share with y'all how you can take the next steps with Hillary and with me as I assist her inside Garment Sewing Academy to become a garment sewing rock star. All right, Mary, I love that you're already signed up. So like you've already jumped to the end. You've jumped to the good part. That's so exciting. All right, let's talk about supplies for sewing clothes. So, a quick overview, and I am sure that I have forgotten something on this list that I will think of as we go along, right? You need a sewing machine. I'm so sorry. We do not have time to do this by hand. If it is very, very important to you to do this by hand, knock yourself out. Um, I am not going to relate on that. I love my sewing machine. I want to sew things fast. I want them with smaller stitches than I'm ever going to do by hand. It's fun. It's exciting. It's more accessible. Okay. You're going to need a rotary cutter with a fresh blade or a nice pair of garment shears. And what I mean by garment shears is scissors that are for fabric only, like fabric scissors. Okay. Big ones to cut out big pieces. Some small snips for things like threads and notches, pattern weights, Swedish tracing paper, some sort of marking tool. So sometimes this might be a Hera marker, sometimes this might be Taylor's chalk, sometimes this might be a regular number 2 pencil. Ooh, the air conditioning just kicked on. There's a floor vent under there. High quality thread. For those of you wondering, inside GSA, we're still using Aurifil 40 weight and Aurifil 50 weight on all of our garments. Many garment sewists swear by using poly threads. And if you're working with stretchier fabrics, that's going to become more important to consider. We are not working with garments that have a lot of negative ease and therefore a lot of stretch to them. Okay, so our cotton thread is still the way to go. Nice sharp straight pins, some fresh needles, and of course a seam ripper. Because listen, this is not about trying to do something perfect. This is about knowing how to figure out where we went wrong and tweak accordingly. All right. Now, I do just want to sit on tips for buying a sewing machine for just a second. This is valuable. Ooh, great question, Lisa. I'm going to interrupt myself. What is Swedish tracing paper? Swedish tracing paper comes off the roll, and it behaves a lot like paper in that you can lay it over a tissue paper pattern and you can trace off your sides like with a pen or a pencil. So then you're not cutting up the tissue paper pattern, right? This is really helpful if you are wanting to sew the same pattern for multiple people, right? For example, Hillary sewing the cielo top for both her and for me. We are different sizes, but she could use one pattern and trace off each of our sizes on the Swedish tracing paper and then just label the pieces and the sizes, okay? What's also really great about Swedish tracing paper is that it's not strictly paper. It has a little bit of a fiber to it that feels a little bit more fabricy. So if you're doing something like an FBA, full bust adjustment, or if you're lengthening or shortening something, or if you were, say, in between pant sizes and you're wanting to grade your seams, you could make those adjustments on the Swedish tracing paper and actually sew it up as a muslin and slip yourself into it and see, does this fit the way that I want it to fit? Are the bust darts landing where I want them to land? Is this falling across my hips the way that I want, right? I have done a little tiny baby bit of this with the Swedish tracing paper, as in I've used it for my pattern pieces. I know that I am only beginning to scratch the surface of what is possible for it to make fully custom garments. And I am so excited to keep learning. So it's really helpful, especially if you decide to get tissue paper patterns so that you can make multiple sizes. All right, great question. So on the sewing machine thing, as I mentioned, it does not resonate with me if you're wanting to do this by hand. I'm a big fan of my sewing machine. And I've developed a few tips for if you are buying your first sewing machine, or perhaps you're upgrading, or even if you're looking at the possibility of a travel machine. Okay. This first one, I cannot believe it's coming out of my mouth because for years I was like, oh, why would you buy it from a sewing machine dealer? And we could argue that I've become more biased because we are Burnett dealers, full disclosure, right? But what I've learned through becoming a Burnett dealer is the important responsibility of dealers to provide education to their customers in a way that online retailers like big box store or like big box stores, right? Amazon, Joann's, like our big box stores, they make things convenient for us. My first sewing machine that I purchased for myself was from Amazon. No shade on that. That's the story for most of us. But as you're wanting to escalate your skills or increase your skills, having personalized support, having actual humans that you can reach out to when you have machine questions is going to give you an elevated experience and reduce your frustration as the things you're doing get more complicated. Okay. Second, as you're buying a sewing machine, you should know your non negotiable features, right? I know one person who is an incredible award winning sewist, and her number one non negotiable right now is price because she makes a lot of recommendations for the things that she uses, and she wants things to be well priced and very reliable so that when she recommends things and other folks take her recommendation, they're going to have a good experience, right? And she knows that for her audience, their price point tends to be on the more affordable side. And so she wants to find that intersection of durability and affordability, right? For me, I want a thread cutter and some speed control. I have been spoiled and I want my bells and whistles. Thank you very much. I have recently learned to sew with a knee lift. And by recently, I mean like in the last 18 months, I'm now useless without a knee lift. It's a blessing and a curse. What can I say, right? So going into your machine search, especially going in to talk to a dealer, knowing these are the things I'm looking for and here is my price point is going to be really, really helpful. Finally, I want you to think about buying for the sewist that you will be. Okay. I have seen myself make this mistake, and I have seen people I know make the mistake of buying a sewing machine just for where your skills are right now, right? This was the case, and this is a little bit of an exception because this first machine that I had was gifted, right? But I was gifted like a $99 Kenmore when I first started sewing, and I learned how to make t-shirt quilts, and I was wildly unsuccessful at sewing anything else that I tried to sew on that machine, mostly because it was not a very expensive machine. It was not really built to last, hadn't necessarily been maintained, and I quickly exceeded the ability of the machine, right? When I bought my next machine, which is the Singer I bought on Amazon that I just referenced, that machine was sufficiently far ahead enough of me in my skills that it was incredible how quickly I grew as a sewist because all of a sudden I could do a whole bunch of things pretty effortlessly, right? Then I took a sidestep, an interesting sidestep, right, into my Juki. And my Juki was a straight stitch industrial machine, which means that my piecing and my quilting skills grew very, very quickly, right? And continued to grow because I basically couldn't outrun that machine. But it wasn't until I got my Bernina and then my Burnett's that my garment sewing skills started to develop because then I had the right tools in those machines in order to be able to do things like a zigzag stitch and buttonholes much more easily. So I want you to consider looking at what is the machine you're going to need in 1 to 3 years, right? So that you can grow into the machine a little bit and not have to be jerry rigging things straight out of the gate in order to make it work. Okay. Notice, and I'm going to answer your question, Melanie. I have seen it and I have not forgotten it. Um, Two things. First of all, shameless plug. I did mention that I'm a Burnett sewing machine dealer. I can sell these machines online. I love to do that. I would love to be your resource for a machine if that's something you're in the market for. If you think that they might be a good fit for you, these are like the little sister to Bernina. They are very durable. They're much more affordable. Incredible machines. I'm in love with all the ones that I'm using, right? Feel free to reach out to me. Check out our website, ask me questions, would be happy to help. All right. I want you to notice that what I have not mentioned is a serger. Listen, I love my B68. It is a cover stitch overlocker combo. I am very spoiled. It hums right along. It has air threading, which is, if you don't know what air threading is, imagine your machine coming with straws for your serger threads that has a little vacuum built in. So when you need to rethread your serger, you close the straws and you hit the vacuum button and it goes and it slurps your thread all the way through. Magic, I tell you. But here's the thing, you do not need a serger to be a successful garment sewist. So I've talked a lot about what to look for in a machine, mention machines that we have on offer. I do want to also drive home the point that if you are inhibited in your desire to sew garments or you're nervous about sewing garments because you think you need a serger, go ahead and release that. Like put that big heavy weight down. You do not need it. All right. Now, Melanie asked a very helpful question about supplies and things. Do you recommend projector pattern cutting? I know people who love this. Hillary is one of these people. Hillary loves her projector. She is very happy to get it set up, fire it up, and use her rotary cutter. I do not have a projector setup. I have heard stories of if you're not particularly excellent with technology, having hiccups with using it. That being said, if you have the technology, like knowledge to set it up and to troubleshoot it if something goes sideways, and you want to save yourself the pattern, printing and piecing and tracing and all of those things, to me, it seems amazing. I think it sounds very, very cool. So, do I recommend it? I haven't done it, so I can't recommend it. It sounds cool. I know folks who love it a lot. I also know folks that have had like less than awesome experiences with it. So, um, but I've heard more good things than bad things for what that's worth. Great question. All right. Any further questions before we go into talking about fabrics? Any further questions about supplies? For those of you who already sew garments, any supplies that I did not mention that you cannot live without that you want to bring up? If you are new to this and you're like, well, I've heard about this other thing. Do I need that? Feel free to ask. I'm like sitting here, my brunette 77 is right behind y'all, and I have not gotten to sew on it in like 2 weeks because of fall festival. And I'm like, it's okay, Ellen. I'll be back soon. All right. Ask some questions if you have them. I'm going to jump straight into talking about wovens. I know I'm talking a mile a minute. We are covering so much ground. Karen says, what other threads besides cotton? If you're working with stretchier fabric or you need to make sure there's a little bit of extra give in your thread, you're going to use something like a polyester. Yeah, great question. I don't have a brand preference because I can't tell you the last time I touched polyester thread. So when my sewing journey brings me there and I start to have opinions, I'll be sure to pass them along for what that's worth. All right, why wovens? So wovens are gasp woven with a warp or vertical fabric and a weft that goes in between those fibers, right? This means that it has a little bit of stretch along the bias, but it doesn't have a lot of stretch vertically or horizontally. This makes them pretty stable fabrics. I like to recommend them, and so does Hillary, for sewing our first garments for two reasons. One, if you are coming from the world of quilting, you're really familiar with wovens. Quilting cotton is a woven. Quilt panels, like the one that we turned into the shirt that I'm wearing, is a woven, right? We're used to how it feels and how we manipulate it under our machine. And depending on how advanced you are in your piecing, if you have already done some curved piecing, then you already know how to set in a sleeve. Look at that, easy peasy lemon squeezy. If you're not coming from the world of quilting and you're just new to sewing and you're getting started, we recommend them because they're very stable fabrics, right? They're not going to do a lot of like stretching and distorting while you're working with them. Some types of wovens, like rayon, which we use for the third garment in Garment Sewing Academy, can be a little more slippery, but it still doesn't have a lot of stretch to do a lot of distortion. So you're not super likely to end up with, like a sleeve that got really stretched out and lays super funky because that's just not how this fabric behaves. All right. It makes it nice and predictable and easy to work with. All right. And yet, wovens are amazingly versatile. So believe it or not, Jesse and I are wearing the exact same outfit in this photo. It's pretty believable from the shorts, right? These are a green twill. It's the Pietra short that we both made from the same pattern, same fabric. We might even be the same size. Like we're very close in size. But we're also both wearing the silo top, which is really cool because I made mine out of the Camp Ginghams from Fabulism, which is more or less a quilting cotton. It's not quite as tight of a weave as a quilting cotton is, but it functions basically like a quilting cotton. And you can see it gives me a little bit more of a boxy, less shaped fit. This is a boxy pattern to begin with, right? But there's not a lot of drape involved. It just kind of goes straight down, right? Meanwhile, Jessie made the same top, the silo top, from a rayon, still a woven, but a very fine drapey fabric, and it gives her such an elevated look. It's so cool. One more note on fabric though, because I have learned this, and y'all, we're about to find out how bad I goofed it up because these shorts are drying downstairs right now. Don't forget that unlike quilting, pre-washing is not a debate in the world of garment sewing, right? In the world of quilting, we could start a bar fight over whether or not you should pre-wash your fabric. If you need a reason to hate me, I don't pre-wash. If that's a strong thing for you, just know that. I'm just going to disclose it early in our relationship so you can, make your peace with it. But when it comes to garment sewing, you always pre-wash. You want to follow two important guidelines, okay? You want to find the balance between these two things, right? Wash the garment how you're planning to wash it. So, however you normally wash your clothes, right? But you also want to take into consideration the recommended washing for the particular fabric that you're using, right? This is a little bit less picky with most of these typical kind of cotton wovens, but as you get into things like the rayons and as you get into specialty fabrics, washing recommendations matter, okay? You want to pre-wash your fabric so that you remove all the chemical sizing off and allow the fibers to settle and allow them to shrink because we want them to shrink before we make them body sized. Now, on especially tops like say the CeeLo and others, these are sizes, or excuse me, these are patterns that have a lot of room in them. So the stakes are not quite as high. But if you were, say, making something like a fitted button down and you were making it so it skimmed you a certain way, but you did not pre wash, and then you wash it and it shrinks, all of a sudden you might be busting out of those buttons a little bit more than you had planned to, right? So if we're going to take the time to properly fit our garments, we want to make sure that they're going to stay fitting. All right. For me, this means that I've adjusted how we wash clothes in our house, right? I am notorious for y'all. You thought that the pre-wash thing was a disclosure. This is some of y'all are going to gasp out loud. Just sit down before I say this. I am notorious for wash on high, tumble dry on sanitize. There, I said it. Okay, I came clean. Yes, I do this to my quilts too. Y'all can tar and feather me later. Okay. I am pleased to say that Hillary has been a positive influence on me because, as I note down at the bottom of this slide, if you're going to put all this time and effort into making your own clothes, yes, you want to pre shrink your fabric so that your garment stays fitting, but you're also going to want it to last, which means considering washing your fabric in a way that is less harsh on the fibers. So we have adjusted. I know, Mary. I know. I know. Listen, it was COVID times up in this joint, and I had small kids. We were not getting any germs. We were killing the germs. I have backed off on my aggressive washing ways now. Okay, so we have switched to a cold wash and a medium tumble because I want my meat maids to last. The quilts still sometimes get hot water though. Sorry. Kids are yucky, okay? Kids have boogers and things. That's my defense. It's okay. You don't have to do it that way at your house. Okay. One final note, if you have garments like the shorts I'm wearing in this picture, where either they're a very delicate fabric and you want to be really careful about how they're washed. I'm living for your replies, by the way, Mary. Or you're a goober like me and you got really excited and forgot to pre-wash. A rinseless product like soap can be a really great way to do a wash that does not involve machine agitation or tumble drying. Okay. You literally just soak and swish. You can kind of give a gentle little squish, 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 maybe do a little rinse in clear water if you want to, but it is not required. And then hang to dry, right? Pat between towels if you want to get the excess water out. All right. Final tip on this, and then I'll move along. Hillary taught me this. When you go to wash your fabric, right? You've cut it off the bolt. You have like 2, 3, 4 yards of fabric, which is so very much fabric. Take those raw edges and zigzag or serge them together so that they don't fray, so that it doesn't get knotted and tangled. It'll make sure you don't end up with a big old mess in your washing machine. Okay. All right. Any questions about fabric and fabric prep? So if you're following along, I am sneakily edging you towards choosing and cutting out your first pattern, right? Because we've now gathered our supplies. We have talked about picking some fabrics and how we would prepare them. And now we need to start actually thinking about the pattern itself. But in order to do that, we have to talk about the big lie. All right. Here's the deal. The big lie is that your body should fit in certain clothes and that the smaller your size number is, the better, more beautiful, or worthier you are. It is BS. It is an absolute lie. The reality is that clothes should be made to fit your body. So we should always choose our size based on our measurements and our comfort and fit preferences, right? So we need to actually gasp, consider ourselves in choosing our size, right? In the case of garment sewing, this is going to mean taking our measurements and comparing them to the back of our pattern envelope and recognizing the numbers are being used as a reference point, not a value judgment. Okay. This was a really difficult lesson for me to learn, and this is one of the things that really delayed this, like, of all the things that I've shared with y'all tonight, this is the thing that delayed my garment sewing journey the most, okay? Because when I first wanted to learn how to sew clothes, I went myself down to the big box store and I picked out a pattern and I took my measurements and I went, "No, no, 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 no. I can't be that size." Because vanity sizing, right? So the size I am in off the rack clothes, I am one, two, or three sizes bigger in me made garments just by how the measurements reference as a general rule. Okay, cool. It's just a number. I'm making me size clothes. But my brain did not understand that when I first tried to sew garments. And I went, no, 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 no. I can't be that size. That size is too big, right? And I wasn't kind to myself and I wasn't considering myself. And so I made the smaller size. Now, making it was very fun. Some of y'all were there for that. I cut out pattern pieces and I went live in the Quilting Rockstars Facebook group and I went, help, I don't know what I'm doing. And some of y'all, including Sue and others, helped talk me through what the heck those directions meant. Just for those of you who weren't there, I need you to picture the fabulous hilarity of the fact that I was taught how to do my first facing in like the collar of a garment via y'all typing directions into the chat while I'm talking like this and holding it up and going, is this right? It was magnificent. We had the best time. And I was so excited to wear that tank top. I made it with Ruby Star Society fabric. It was going to be fantastic. But here's the thing, it was a size too small. So I could fit in it, but I couldn't actually do anything in it, right? And rather than going, oop, I should cut one out a size bigger, I tucked all that very far back in my stash. And it took me years to come back to this because I had to do a lot of growing and learning as a person about bodies and about loving my body exactly as it is, right? So I'm hoping to empower you to connect some of these dots a little bit. And so with that, let's look at the back of a pattern envelope, okay? If you, like me, did not necessarily love math in school or generally finds any large tables of numbers to be a bit overwhelming, take a sip of your beverage and a deep breath, okay? This is all just information, and I'm gonna break it down for you step by step so that you don't have to be overwhelmed. You do not need all of this information. You need specific pieces of this information, okay? So the back of your pattern envelope is gonna have a lot of really insightful things. This is the back of the NYX top and dress, which is the third pattern in Garment Sewing Academy, all right? At the top, you can see a difficult rating. It is 2 out of 5, so, not quite baby beginner, not super difficult, right? And a description of the garment. Underneath that, you're going to see the different views of the ways you can make this top. Hillary teaches that center view, which is the short sleeve with kind of the peplum bottom. I am personally really wanting to make the third view, which is a little bit of a flatter fit. It's on my list for this fall. Hopefully I get around to it. And then you're going to have descriptions of the types of fabric recommended for the pattern, the supplies that you're going to need. So like if you need bias tape or you need buttons or you need elastic, things like that. And then you're going to begin to see measurements, okay? That first set of measurements is going to be you measuring your body and comparing it to the size chart, okay? Remember, we're only using numbers as a point of reference here. We're going to use the numbers in order to achieve a U-sized garment. There will be no size tag in the back of your shirt. Everyone is just going to know that you made it U-sized, which is really freeing and fabulous, I have to say. All right? So typically, especially for tops, the 3 measurements that are going to be really important is going to be your full bust, your natural waist, and then even down around the fullest part of your hip. So those are the 3 measurements we use in Garment Sewing Academy that you're going to use as you look at this. Now, a note on ease, which I don't think I have this in the next slide. Let me just make sure. No, I do not. Actually, I'm going to get to ease in a minute. Okay, so you have your measurements and then the size that they correlate to. And then down beneath that, you'll see 3 tables that look really similar. Okay, And that is for the three versions of this garment: the dress, the peplum top, and the tunic top. All right. And they tell you how much yardage you need for each size based on whether or not you're using like 42 or 45-inch fabric or like 60-inch fabric. Okay. Jackie, I'm going to answer that question about measurements in just a second. So let's talk about how to measure. Then we're going to talk about what happens if you fall between, and we're going to talk about ease. Don't let me forget either of those. All right. So, what to measure? You're going to want three measurements for basic garment sewing. Okay. The first is going to be your full bust. So, across the apex of your bust, that's the fullest, biggest part, right? Your natural waist, and then the fullest part of your bum and hips. That's usually called your hip measurement. All right. You're going to use a soft measuring tape for this. You're going to want to keep the measuring tape level with the floor as much as possible, right? So you don't want it like way up high in the front and way down low in the back, right? You want it to go straight across and around you. Okay. You should wear whatever undergarments you're planning to wear with the garment that you're making, right? So this came up um, in the last time that I taught this of like, especially as we age, where the fullest part of our bust is can drop, but perhaps with our undergarments, we have a little bit more lift. You should wear your undergarments when you are measuring yourself, okay? Because that's how you're going to make sure that everything's going to fit right later. Tracking with me? All right. You also, what was my other thought on that? Hang on. Oh, also please make sure that you stand like relaxed and that you're doing things like breathing, right? I was a ballerina in one of my former lives, similar time period to the oil painting. And of course, we had to always do measurements for our leotards and for our costumes and things. Um, and we're dancers, right? Like it is grilled into us. This is part of the unlearning I had to do to be as small as possible, right? And so that was always a difficulty when we would get our measurements, is actually getting us to relax and be normal people while we got our measurements. So please relax and be a normal person who breathes and moves while you're measuring yourself. Again, we are wanting these to be comfortable, which brings me into that third point, which think about what you like, right? And think about how you like your clothes to fit. So, Jackie, this goes into your question about if you fall between measurements, do you go up or down? And that's going to vary a little bit based on the pattern. So, for example, when we measured me for the CeeLo top, which is the shirt that I'm wearing here, dun, 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 it's a boxy, slightly cropped tee. Okay. Um, I measured at a certain size. And I think all of my measurements, they even were across two sizes. Yes, they were across two sizes. And Hillary and I together looked at where those measurements were. Do we choose the larger one? Do we choose the smaller one? What happens? And then what we decided to do is actually look at the fabric or at the pattern itself, right? The CeeLo top has what's called a lot of positive ease. So that means that the garment is made bigger than the body. It's going to have a looser, boxier fit. Something like a really fitted tank top, like y'all have seen me in those like ribbed, like crop tops that fit really, really snug. That has negative ease. That means that the garment is actually smaller before I put it on my body, and I stretch it to put it on my body. Okay. So the CeeLo has a lot of positive ease. It's really boxy. It's really big. And so we decided to size me down. We might have even gone one size smaller than my measurements because I like my clothes a little bit more fitted. I didn't want it to feel like it was swallowing me, right? Hillary, when she does hers, does not size down additionally, right? She likes her clothes boxy and loose, and she's like, "Give me all the room, girl." Right? So that's where taking that how you like things to fit into consideration is really going to matter. Okay? When you get into things like um say the Pietra short, right? If you're between sizes, depending on where that sizing happens, you may do something like actually grading between sizes. But again, that's going to be based on how exact you want that fit to be. So that kind of halfway answers that question, Jackie. I know it's not a perfect answer. This is where if you're really, really unsure, you might do something like use that tracing paper that we were talking about earlier and like make a muslin of like take your best guess, cut out the Swedish tracing paper and either pin or like baste the pieces together and put it on to see if you like what it does, right? Great question. Love that. All right, we talked about ease, we talked about sizing. Excellent. All right. Because remember, this is about making clothes that fit you because you can and will be a garment sewing rock star. All right. Hopefully, y'all are feeling a little bit more empowered, a little excited, even if it's just a little bit curious of like, ooh, I think I want to try this again, or I think I want to try this for the first time. And that's why I want us to go back to that garment sewing dream about dresses with pockets, about clothes that feel good on bodies that have changed over time, right? About embracing who you are and how your clothes can fit right here, right now, in this moment in time. All right. I want you to believe in that dream. I didn't think that it was possible to make clothes that I felt so fabulous in. And I can't tell you the feeling of sliding on these Pietro shorts for the first time or sliding on that gingham CeeLo top and going, "Oh my gosh, I made it and it looks cute. This is fantastic." And I feel kind of recklessly unstoppable right now, but that's beyond the scope of what we're going to talk about today. Because you, my dears, have two options, right? There's lots of good information on the internet. Y'all can run amok and go figure it out. But as many of you already know from classes like Free Motion Quilting Academy and Ruler Quilting Academy, new adventures are better with friends, right? It is way more fun when you can share your progress with your friends, you can ask for help from your friends, you can commiserate with your friends. And that is why Hillary and I would love to invite you in to Garment Sewing Academy. This is the newest class at String and Story. We're really rather in love with it. This is the third ever cohort. I already was excited about this class. Then I actually started taking it. Ah, it's so good. So, Garment Sewing Academy is here to help you feel confident sewing your own clothes with our beginner friendly capsule wardrobe. If you want to try sewing your own clothes but are nervous about getting started and nervous about actually successfully making clothes that fit you, then Garment Sewing Academy is for you. Mary says your gingham one looked so cute when you were dancing on the green. Oh my gosh, Mary, that was the most fun night. That was the Fall Festival concert. It is the biggest live music event on the Duluth Town Green every year. Literally everybody comes out and we just have the goofiest, best time. It was fantastic. All right, so let me introduce you to Rebecca, who has gone through Garment Sewing Academy, because I've shared a lot about my experience, but let's talk about some other rock stars, right? Rebecca says, I love the explanations and especially the repetition of things that we may have learned previously, but should remember for the next module. I finally understood the concepts of stay stitching and understitching and why they were important. Hillary also did a great job of explaining what makes a pattern a good pattern. So now I know what to look like when I go choose other patterns to sew. I thought that the Q&A sessions were very important and was very glad that they were available. Rebecca, you look so cute. That hot pink, you're rocking it. The hot pink, the bright blue. Yes. So what's included in Garment Sewing Academy? Garment Sewing Academy includes lifetime access to 4 units of video lessons. The first unit is going to cover garment sewing basics. So a lot of what we talked about today, but like diving even deeper, and video of Hillary actually doing all of the steps that we talked about. Answering those pressing questions about supplies, the pattern envelope, fabrics, and other garment sewing lingo. Because listen, lingo's a whole thing. It can be a whole barrier to entry in a new hobby. Like, I don't know what stay stitching is. Therefore, I don't know if I'll be successful, right? Starting to understand some of those terms and what they mean and why they matter. In the next 3 lessons, you're going to get step-by-step guides to sew a woven top, woven bottoms, and a drapey woven top. You've seen all of those throughout the course of our evening together. They're fabulous. They're versatile. You have lots of options. And what's really cool is that the way that Hillary has chosen to pick one view of each pattern, you're really set up for success to then experiment with the other views of that pattern. So you could really change up the looks and seasonality of these patterns with very small tweaks with the skill sets that you learn inside the course, right? The course workbook includes quick guides, tips, and more. We have a private Quilting Rockstar community where there are live Q&A sessions and the ability to share your work and engage with your fellow rock stars. And of course, lifetime access to all of the above. I am grabbing the link right now. As you can see there, our full tuition enrollment is $227 USD. Those of you who were with me last week know I had a ridiculous typo. We have solved that. The class is very affordable, or we do have a payment option of 2 payments of $115. I've dropped that link down in there for those of you who are curious and ready to just go deep dive and get enrolled. All right, let me explain a little bit more. Inside Garment Sewing Academy, Hillary will take you even deeper into the foundations that we covered today, and then she'll teach you how to sew a capsule wardrobe with 3 patterns: the CeeLo top, the Pietro shorts, and the NYX top. And once you've worked with these patterns, this is what I was just mentioning, right? the possibilities quickly become endless, right? Jessie learned how to sew the silo top with a less drapey woven fabric that was more similar to the quilting cotton that I'm wearing here to this gingham, right? But then she went, wait a second, I could make the same top with the skill set that I've already mastered, but I could elevate this look just by doing it with a rayon. Massive success. It looks fabulous, right? So, how does the community work? Many of y'all are familiar with our online communities. Our units, our course lessons are hosted in the Kajabi library. We also have the Kajabi community, and that's where you have opportunities to share pictures, to write posts. It's where Hillary and I are taking turns being live to answer your questions as we go along. And there are always replays. We always collect questions ahead of time that we can answer during the live, and you can ask questions live. And there is always a replay as well because we want this course to be super accessible to you. That's also why we offer lifetime access. I know that starting something new, we can start all gung ho, but then life happens, we get distracted, we don't come back to something quite as quickly as we hoped, right? Or we go through and we make the thing successfully, but then when we're making it the next time, we're like, wait, I need a refresher. How did the waistband on these Pietro shorts work? Because it is some sort of folding magic, right? And it's not overly hard or complicated folding magic, but it's a whole lot easier when you can watch Hillary do it as you're doing it. Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know, right? So lifetime access means that you can go back and watch the videos over and over again forever. It means that as we continue to make updates to this course, that you're going to get all those updates for free. And it means that even if life happens as you're taking the class, you can come back and pick up right where you left off at any point. All right. Let me introduce you to Rachel. Rachel said, I love being able to follow along with Hillary in the videos. I love the Q&A sessions. The selections of patterns were great, and I learned new skills in each one. Hillary is very body positive, and the course is size inclusive. That's massively important to us, right? We have lots of different bodies doing lots of different life in lots of different sizes, ages, stages, etc. And we wanted to make sure that we picked patterns that were going to be as flattering as possible for all of us. So I love that here you can see Rachel's CeeLo top over on the left. She's wearing her Knix on the right with her Pietro shorts. They both look fabulous. They all look fabulous. Well done, Rachel. So Garment Sewing Academy allows you to learn garment sewing from the privacy and comfort of your own home. This is really fabulous if you, like basically all of us, have some body hangups or you're adjusting for a body that feels new or feels a little funky, or you just maybe you're practicing being comfy in the skin that you're in. And you don't have to feel like someone's over your shoulder. Nobody's watching you. You can make those adjustments and take those measurements in a space where you feel safe, right? And then you can celebrate when you get it all done and you can share it with us then, right? But it takes a little bit of that edge or that discomfort off. Garment Sewing Academy is ready when you are, regardless of geography or time zone, with on-demand pre-recorded video lessons. And it connects you to other rock stars in training around the world so you can help and encourage one another. Here's Jessie. Many of y'all know Jessie. I shout her out a lot. You saw her just a couple of slides back. Jessie says, I absolutely love the videos. I could pause and rewind to make sure that I got it right, and I'm sure I'll refer back to them again and again. I can co-sign that Jessie has indeed done that because she's made a lot more clothes since these first two photos were taken. And she is truly rocking and rolling with the skills she built inside GSA. So Rockstars, if you are here, if you're ready to take the next step, even if you have sewn garments before, but you're looking for that refresh, you're looking for that custom fitting help, this is the course for you. So open enrollment is until next Monday, October 9th. Full tuition is $227 or 2 payments of $115. Chrissy said, do you suggest fabrics for the course? Do you pattern yardage recommendations take directional fabric and design into account? Great question, Christy. So we recommend not directional fabric for our kits. It just makes it so much easier than if you're trying to keep things a certain way. That being said, I did the gingham for my CeeLo top, which we could argue has some directionality to it a little bit, right? And as long as I followed the grain of the fabric, that's all I did. I followed the grain lines on my pattern, and y'all saw how cute that looked. Nothing looked funky, nothing looked weird. I did not fussy cut that gingham so that it would lay a certain way at all. I just followed the grain lines. So as long as you have, if you've got like trees that you're trying to make sure stay upright, it may get a little bit trickier. but things like the gingham and whatnot, as long as you're following grain lines, I was wildly successful and really happy with that. We do offer an optional kit for the course that we can do paper patterns up to size 20. Unfortunately, Closet Core does not print the larger size bracket, the 14 to 30 size bracket on regular tissue paper patterns. So that's the PDF option. So if you wanted to get our kit, but you're wanting to sew from the 14 to 30, you would just select no pattern. For that, it takes the price of those patterns out, obviously, and then you would get them from Closet Core as a PDF and print them out, right? So we do have fabric recommendations. You can see those inside the course kit. And if you wanted to just buy a couple of those options from us, of course, you're welcome to do that. Yeah. We in store have a bamboo blend and some 100% cotton fabrics for the silo. We have twill for the shorts or trousers because for a lot of us, we're heading into cooler weather. We increased the yardage for the Pietra shorts inside the kit that if you preferred to make the trouser, you could. Because I know some of y'all, you're going to be getting like snow soon. That is not the case here. But for some of y'all, I know that that may be imminent, right? And then the next, we are making that short sleeve version. Yeah. Will Hillary be able to help with explanation for using the PDF? Yes, she talks about tiling the patterns. It's really very self-explanatory, like you match lines and tape it together. So it is not a difficult match at all. But yes, we will be available to help you with that if you get stuck. Absolutely. Great question, Mary. She also makes a recommendation. I wish I could remember the website off the top of my head, but they basically print patterns on single sheets of paper. So you can send the PDF in and you pay a printing fee just like if you were to send it to like FedEx or Kinko's or something like that, but they print it really, really big so that it's like you have a custom printed pattern. And Hillary loves to do that with her stuff of all size brackets, just because then she doesn't have to tape it all together. So you have options, Mary, is what I'm saying. Yeah, great questions. Any other questions that I can answer, y'all? Y'all have been fabulous. We got all of my quips and jokes and sidebars in, and we still finished before the end of our hour. Fantastic. I love that. Copy shop files. Yes, exactly. There's a specific one that she uses though, and I just don't remember which one it is, but it's included in, I think, the workbook. We put it in there. It might even be in the workbook that y'all got for today. The exact recommendation that she has. Yeah. Mary, I'm so excited to see what you sew. I cannot wait. It's going to be fabulous. All right. I am dropping this URL one more time. Rockstars, as I mentioned, Garment Sewing Academy is enrolling through Monday. Feel free to reach out if you think of any more questions. Oh my gosh, conversion rates, Sue. I'm so sorry. For the kit or for the course? I'm going to guess for the kit. It's a doozy. The great news is that Closet Core, you can get those patterns as PDFs and you can get fabric locally to use. So yeah. As far as course, conversion, I assume it's also a whole thing, but yeah. Mary says, I'm also glad to hear you mention Ruby Star Society fabric. I have some I want to use. Yes, you can use regular Ruby Star quilting cotton for your silo top for sure. And the twill that we have is actually Ruby Star Society twill. It's fabulous. Oh my gosh, Sue, conversion rates. I'm so sorry. I know it's not my fault. It's still a bugger though, with the way that just works in the world. There is still that payment option, but I totally understand. So just know we would love to see you if it works. We want all of y'all in GSA. It's very fun here. Any other questions I can answer? What was I saying? Oh, yes. Enrollment's open through Monday. If you think of questions after our time wraps up, you, of course, can reach out via email at hello@stringandstory.com or via social media. I'll be keeping an eye out. I just want to remind y'all, 20 seconds of insane courage is all it takes. I talked about this in some of the emails related to GSA. I hemmed and hawed about finally sewing garments because I just was convinced that I would be the person that couldn't figure it out. And I found my courage through like a kind of unfortunate set of circumstances that I was having a really difficult time with a friend of mine and I really needed to distract myself and I was feeling reckless, right? And so I jumped in and started sewing because I was like, it's a new thing. I'll have to pay attention to it. I won't be able to think about this hard stuff, right? But what I found was that 20 seconds of insane courage has unlocked a whole new thing that I've been wanting to do for a long time. And now I finally feel empowered to do it. And it makes me even more excited to share it with y'all. Mary says, when does the course drop? We will start orientation next week, right after signups close, right after enrollment closes. And then it is one pattern per week for 4 weeks. So it comes out pretty quickly because garments are fast. So for those of y'all who are wanting to just crank them out, you'll be able to do that. But remember, lifetime access and graduation for the course, if you want to graduate, is not till the first weekend of December. So I think you have all of your garments by maybe the first week of November, and then you have several weeks to catch up, right? So if you are like, oh, life happened, I still have this other garment that I want to make before graduation, you have time for that. Or like for those of you who are in Canada, if you were to decide to order fabric from us and it's going to take a minute to get there, you don't need to feel behind, right? Y'all know we're not about y'all feeling behind around here. Your pace is the perfect pace. All right, rock stars, have a fabulous rest of your evening. It is always a delight to be with y'all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your time with me. And I hope to see lots of y'all inside GSA. Good night, y'all.